Welcome to our OverseasX webinar today, this week, for August 11th. We are here with Barry Wolfson. Barry is the foul shot doc, world renowned, worked with some NBA players, lots of overseas guys, pro, youth, college, high school, you name it. He's worked with many different athletes, including Trevor, Ariza, Jameer Nelson. So, again, it's great to have you here. It's fun because I've heard all these good things, and then we connected through the site, and it's been really fun getting to know you. So we're really excited to have you on today.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor because I really think this is something very beneficial for your players, for your site. I love the stuff that you did. Can't wait to read the book, as we talked about before. But I've heard some anecdotes from a couple of friends of mine, and through our conversations, it's real exciting. I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate that. Yes, the book, as I tell everyone, there's some parts, it starts real intense, and everyone's, whoa, is this what this book's going to be? And it just settles in. That was the most exciting thing probably to happen to open me up. Again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You've worked with so many athletes. You have a wealth of knowledge that you've gone throughout your illustrious career. How did you get started in this field? How did you get started in the hoops world?
It's really crazy because through some misfortune, I guess fortune, I was introduced to basketball at a very young age, at about 4 years old. That prior fall, my dad passed away. And I had a brother who was 13, and for some reason, and I was 4, and for some reason, my mom was going through a lot, and through the help of an uncle, she sent me and my brother away to overnight camp for 8 weeks. And as a 4-year-old, it's pretty bizarre, but I didn't know anything different. It turns out it was about 15 minutes from here. It was called Camp Marity, and it was run by a guy named Joe Lapchick. And Joe Lapchick was a former Knick player. He was a Knick coach. He coached at St. John's. Louis Carnesecca was his assistant there. They still have the Lapchick Festival or tournament every year out there. So there was basketball around, which I didn't even realize. Okay, one of his counselors was a young Pete Carrill, the legendary Princeton guy. So I was around basketball and probably was being picked up by people to put the ball in the basket and all the stuff that all the kids go through. But the sound of the ball was neat, and I was just exposed to it fairly early on. As it turns out, he has a son, Lapchick, Richard, who I'm friends with on Facebook, who put together a documentary recently, which I'm going to watch tonight, about Sweetwater Clifton, who was the first black guy in the NBA, and he was brought into the NBA by Richard's father, Joe.
Wow.
It goes back a long way. The next thing I can think about is my brother and all his buddies always played hoops. Okay, and I would go with him to hang out, sitting while he's babysitting and watching his friends. But his high school team was outstanding. Weequahic High School in Newark. And back in the days in the early 1950s, they would play the state championship game down by you in Camden, or Haddonfield.
Yeah.
And they would play Camden, which had great teams way back before Juwan Wagner and DJ and all of those guys. They had Ron Itchy Smith, who was a legend, All-State, Sonny Sunken, who became a congressman or something. And I was with my brother and his friends. And what I remember is, because I couldn't hardly see it all, they would lift me up, put me on shoulders, pass me from one guy to the other guy so I could watch the game. And it was packed and arena, people screaming, yelling, running up and down the court. But the one thing I started to notice was that during the timeout, there was this little guy with a suit, and everybody was coming over to talk to him, the coach. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Not that it sank in then, but I'm thinking about it retrospectively.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, I've been around great coaches all my life. My high school team was undefeated state champs. The guy who coached at my little high school went on to be Bill Raftery's assistant for many years, and then was the head coach between Raff and PJ Carlissimo. The Catholic school in town, little tiny Our Lady of the Valley, which is now closed, was coached by Richie Adebato, who wound up coaching the Pistons and the Mavericks. And it was a hotbed of basketball all around Essex County. And we'd go to, just like yourself, we'd go to the different parks to play against competition and find out where good games were with all of my friends. And
no, I was going to say, it's funny how many people probably got their start, because you said the same. I got my start from my older sibling. there's probably so many, if you polled every professional athlete, like I would love to know what level being the middle or younger child versus being the oldest child reaches, because I swear I got into basketball because of my older brother. He dragged me just like you to all these different places, and you get into it because they're into it. So like the pressure's on them. They're the ones going and dragging you. You're just tagging along. I think it's just interesting to see how many athletes got their start. But go ahead, I apologize.
No, that's okay. So I've been a gym rat all my life. I'm going to be turning, even though I'm dealing with some ageism at times, 3/4 of a century. But I was playing basketball up until 3 years ago. In Florida, we were playing. I was living in Florida in King of Prussia, and I was dragging the guys I played tennis with and some golfers onto the basketball court on Saturday, and we were playing 3-on-3 old man basketball. And there was only two rules: no V cuts,
Oh yeah.
because you don't pull nothing, and no getting hurt. And then during the pandemic, we would play horse and OUT and all those shooting games. Everybody bring their own basketball. And I was always a gym rat, always going to the playground with the teams I was telling you about. I got cut 4 years in a row for my high school team. Okay. But again, they were state champs. I was equal with the sophomores when I was a senior. I was 5'9" then. I'm 5'7", maybe and a half now. I'm shrinking. I'm looking for an under 5'7" team to play on that are over 75. I can be a star finally. But I called myself all playground because I love to pass the ball around. So when they were choosing the size, I wasn't looking to shoot. I was looking to get guys involved. And at that point, I was pretty quick. I knew the game, and I would have the ball in my hands at the end of the game, and no one would begrudge me if I took a shot here and there.
Yeah.
And I could make a 15-footer, like which is a foul shot. I figured if I can get there. And one of my buddies had nicknamed me Mr. 15 years ago because I could make that shot in OUT blindfolded. I could make a lefty. I wasn't talented. I couldn't slam like the other people, but I had a couple of shots that worked. I could spin the ball off my finger and punch it up off the backboard to go in. I tried to show these guys at the Nike camp recently, and they couldn't spin it on the left hand. They were all spinning on the right. But in any event, I loved the game. So we'd go to playground all the time in Orange, but we'd go to the neighboring towns. And there were great basketball players in Essex County at that time. Guys who went into the pros, guys who wound up playing at North Carolina, Jimmy Delaney, who went to St. Benedict's and wound up playing for North Carolina. Robbie West, who was at Columbia, who wound up going to Duke. And so there was all these people. We'd play in South Orange. And my friends in South Orange who I played with had me go to Columbia High School as a ringer, said I just transferred in, and I played intramurals, not just in my high school, but at Columbia High School.
When you look at what you've done, and when you described the basketball, what got you into it, when did you start noticing that players needed help mentally with the mentality portion of the game as you started getting older and as you started looking at kind of people struggling with foul shots? When did you start noticing that the mentality was almost becoming not on par, but around even with the physical, because I think you need both?
Absolutely. I started looking at players' body language when they got fouled. And I remember the struggles. I go back a ways. Will Chamberlain, Shaq, you can name dozens of guys who, like yourself, probably when they started playing ball, were told to stand next to the basket, get some rebounds, weren't told to shoot from 15 feet away. Right now, the game has evolved where you guys got Porzingis and Giannis and these guys shooting threes because everybody else is shorter than them. So it's like they're shooting in their backyard. Yeah. I was first a proponent against it, and then I saw some of the light as the game evolved. So I noticed that they struggled and they didn't want to be there. And you could see, and they'd get hacked and go to the line and they go to the end of the game. So that was an early indication. Another one was watching Shaq's Orlando team playing Jordan's team.
Yep.
Okay. And they were winning early in the playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals. And at the end of the game, Orlando was up. Of course, Chicago decides to foul. They fouled Nick Anderson. Now, Nick Anderson was an all-around good player from Illinois, and his game was ascending. Okay. And they're trying to stop the clock. I'm sitting there watching with my ex-wife, and he misses the first shot. And I said to my ex-wife, he's not making the second shot. She goes, what the hell are you talking about? I said, there's no way on the planet this guy's making the second shot. Proceeds to blow the second shot. Chicago gets the ball, comes down, scores. Same thing happens. Who are they going to foul? The guy who just missed two. Nick Anderson. So he tries to throw it up to get the two shots. Misses two more. And his career went on the ascent right down there. So I never wanted to, as a college coach for 11 years, lose games at the foul line.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had sent you something before, a chart of a practice. Every day we just charted practice at Quinnipiac. And we would shoot at least 50 a day, each player. And they would shoot 10 at the beginning of practice with no one on them. We'd stop practice in between, okay, when they're running and tired, okay. And we'd have them shoot, but we had them shoot different ways. With people screaming at them, okay. With people doing jumping jacks in the lane, okay. We had at one point, which you can't do anymore, was called your mama foul shots. Where everybody would diss the person at the line trying to get them distracted.
I'm pretty sure I did that one. I've said one many times.
Okay. But the point I always tried to make, it's the same shot. It's 15 feet away. It's 10 foot high. It's them, the ball, and the bottom of the net. And that everything else is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lose games. And I wanted to go to the foul line. I wanted to attack the other team's best players or leading scorers. Because I wanted to get on the bench so they could be assistant coaches rather than performers.
The hypnosis thing is crazy because I think about now I struggled with with foul shots here and there in my career. I had some times when I was really good, but my mentality was up and down. And towards the end of my career, I felt like was playing and I started getting the yips a little bit. And then when you're in another country, it was hard to reset because there's nothing there to reset your brain. You're just trying to figure it out, like basketball wise, but you're in another country. You don't have your usual support system, so you're figuring it out on your own. You talk about how you use hypnosis with foul shots. Now, I know when you talked about the shooting 50 free throws every single practice, we used to do something like that at Monmouth. We used to actually have to make 12 in a row before we could leave. And that was like I think that helped me become a very good free throw shooter in college. And then as I became pro, not that it didn't matter as much, because it did. And it was just when I became pro, there were so many things I had to get better at that I was like just cramming as much into my body as I possibly could. And I feel like the mentality was never something that I was taking care of. And that's when we talked, I look at the physical, I was really jamming the physical, but I wasn't really working on my mental. So as I started going overseas, sometimes I developed some foul shot issues. But I remember making those 12 in a row, and that always calmed me down. So I would try to do that overseas, but it wouldn't always work. I felt like I was getting frustrated, and I was like, what am I doing? You're a pro. And I was putting so much more pressure on myself. So when you use hypnosis, and we'll talk about Jameer and how you've worked with him and Trevor Ariza, but like the hypnosis is really interesting because that's something that I've heard about the hypnosis that athletes have taken to reset their brain and just because again, when you put so much pressure on yourself, and I'm a very mental person, I think very much. I overthink a lot. So when I'm overthinking, that is where I almost needed something in it's not like I'm engaged with this every time, just something in the back of my mind that just clicks and does it automatically. And that's where, when I got to the foul line, I would sit there and I would start thinking and I would put pressure on myself and I'm like, just calm down. But you're in this struggle with yourself that you can't get over. So what was that like when you started bringing hypnosis into foul shooting and your coaching?
I was coaching basketball at Upsala College in East Orange. And all these years when I was coaching 11 years of college, I was quitting full-time jobs to work for like peanuts. Okay. I was getting $5,000 at Quinnipiac and we were 24-2 going to the NCAA's Elite Eight. Okay. Fourth in the country defensively. But when I was up, and I'll tell you why I went back to Upsala, because the Knicks practiced there, which is why I sent you that picture of Ewing's sneakers, which Mike Saunders, the Knicks trainer, gave me. But what happened was I had 4 jobs on campus, which made me full-time. I supervised the mailroom, the steno bureau, the supplies for the college, plus coaching. But if you were there full-time, you could take courses for free. So I had already been in business. I had closed my business. And there was only 2 masters, one in counseling and one in business administration. So I took the one in counseling. And my master's degree cost me $112, including cap and gown, because I had to register for each class. But at the same time, I had a cousin who lived in New York City who was a counselor and a therapist. And she started training with a guy who's top in his field. This guy Petri had the Petri method of hypnosis. And he said, why don't you get into that? And I said, yeah, that's not a bad idea as well. So I established my own Hypnosis Counseling Center. And I've been doing that for 40 years. I worked with about 25 different things with people. It was first mostly with smoking and weight loss. And the other 23 things were like 10%. Then it became mostly weight before Ozempic came into play, because people were looking for that quick fix. And now most of what I work with is mostly stress related. And in fact, at the beginning of every session with our clients, I teach them a 3-minute thing called stress squeeze and release, where they tense and release muscles in their body. I ask them what their stress level is normally on a day, what it was that day, and what it was after I do that technique. It's usually much less. And I know whether or not they're going to be susceptible to change. And then I started using it for a lot of athletes and a lot of people with performance, stage fright, whether it was singers, actors. I work with people, horse jumping, riflery, every baseball. And in baseball, if you're a great player, you're hitting 300. You're failing 7 times. But it's always the next shot. It's always the next play. So when I was coaching basketball, I had one rule with my players, which was an automatic substitution. If we were coming down offensively and someone threw it away or picked up an offensive foul, threw it away, made a turnover, and they didn't get back on defense, that particular play, where they're bitching at the ref. Years ago, in the old black and white movies, they had vaudeville, okay? And people would come on stage and sing, or the comedians. If they weren't good, there would be a guy behind the stage with a big hook, and they would pull the person by the neck off the stage. I don't know if you ever saw that. But my players, I wouldn't have to say it. My players would go, coach, hook. And that kid would come out of the game. Because I didn't want us now going down playing 4 against 5 on defense.
Yeah.
You made one mistake, get back and do something positive. And the same thing I do with foul shots. Each foul shot's brand new. Okay? The last one's done.
Yeah.
And most people get into a routine. Steph Curry do a certain thing each time. You see some people go like that. The Calm app came into play, which is what I do. It's almost the same thing, which LeBron and other athletes use. And these days, everyone and their mother's a shooting coach. Okay. Years ago, it was Herb McGee, who you might have heard of in Philadelphia.
Yep.
Okay. Or Dave Hopla, who's still a good friend of mine. He's out in California right now. I met him at 5-Star Camp for the Pocono Invitationals years ago. There's a guy, George Lehman, who played in the ABA. But now there's a bunch of people who do that. They don't do foul shooting. They don't do the mental part of it. And there's so many things that people don't even realize. I discussed this the other day. I worked with a top flight AAU team. Okay. I had done some things with one of their coaches before, and he wanted me to do the mental aspect. And I said, you just got fouled. Someone beat the crap out of you. It's the only time in the day where you can shoot. It's not a foul shot. It's a free throw. You're not being guarded. It's the same, what I talked about before, 10 foot high, 15 feet away, no matter where you're doing it, in a barn in Indiana, in your backyard, in a playground. It's the same shot. Everything else is irrelevant. Now, the one thing these players and most players don't realize is, I'm sure when you get to the line, you have 10 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10. And it's never taken away. But you can take as much time as you want getting to the foul line.
Yeah.
You can stop and tie your sneakers. You can, so we tell people to take as much time as they want to get to it. So their heart rate slows down, right? So they're sweating and huffing and puffing, gets a little calmer. And then I have them shoot the shot. There's a space between every inhale and every exhale that's like a blank. And that's when they take their shot.
Okay.
And they take that shot. the same every time and reset. Whether it's a make or a miss, it's the next shot.
Well, it is interesting because I look at it because in my mind, it was the opposite of what I was trying to do. When I was struggling, and like you said, this is one of those tricks. When I was struggling, I was like, get to the line as quick as possible, stop thinking about it. Because when you're in your head, you're going to screw it up. So I would get fat and be like, all right, let's get this on the road. Let's go. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to overthink it. I just want to, because in my mind, I overthink everything. So I'm like, okay, calm down, take your time, breathe, and shoot it. Don't even think, don't take your time. And that was something that it's a good tip. But it was almost the opposite of what my mind was telling me to do. My mind was telling me to rush, to go quick, to not think about it, just get it out of the way. So I used to just get up there and I would just sometimes pop it so quick. And that when I really got in my head, I watched film of a game that I played in Australia. I was struggling. I think I want to say I was like 3 for 13 from the line. And it was the playoffs, but I had a monster game. We won the game. I had a really good game, but they kept fouling me. And I think I had 18, but I could have had 30 if I made my foul. I just was not focused. I was not doing the things I needed to do. And I just kept on missing, and it was compiling. That's when I started shooting fast. So can you share, or like, go ahead.
So what I was going to say is, so when I work with people to hypnotize them, initially I have them take 3 deep breaths. They take them in through their nose, hold it for 4, and then exhale through their mouth. And I have them learn to do that once an hour on the hour, and whenever they're thinking negatively about their shot. Yeah. Our thoughts affect our feelings. When we think positively, we feel that way. When we think negatively, we feel that way. And I have them do is create phrases that they can say to themselves out loud into a mirror once an hour on the hour, such as, I'm a great foul shooter. I make every foul shot. Then I have them imagine themselves someplace outdoors on a gorgeous day. I use the sunlight to relax different portions of their body. And then when they're nice and relaxed, I bring in the suggestions for change. And I have them visualize themselves at the line, have them really see themselves doing that, and have them even practice standing in front of a mirror as they would in the game. I used to take 4 dribbles. I bounce the ball 4 times when I play competitive tennis, like I will later today. And it's always the next shot. If I miss something at the net, I say, come on, bring it on, bring the next one. It's over. I can't get caught up in something that's in the past. The past is over. You can have good memories. The future never comes. Sometimes you have to plan. I can't go to Newark Airport today and say, take me to Paris. I have to plan for a little bit. But all we have is the present, and the present's a gift. And I have people stay in the present as best as they can.
I like that. It's a great mental tip.
And the only thing we can control, Kevin, and I do this to all my clients, basketball-wise, athletes-wise, is our thoughts and our actions. There's nothing else we can control. We can't control the weather. We can't control the politics. We can't control all that's going on around us. But we can control our thoughts. And we have a negative thought. We have the ability to change it. It's only a thought. You told me the other day you were coming home to bring in pizza for your kids, right?
Yep.
Guarantee at some point you said, I'm going to kill this kid. But you didn't, because it was only a thought. The problem comes into play when we give what you described before, too much power to our thoughts. Yep. We get what we call monkey mind. Yeah, but it's only a thought.
Yeah.
So that's where part of the mental piece comes into play. And I make it personalized recording onto their phone or an iPad geared to those particular needs.
That's great. It's a really good philosophy. It's amazing. And I think it's something that I haven't had as much experience in, but you hear these things about like former players. So if you share a story like Jameer Nelson, I know you worked with him. And
okay. So I come into Philadelphia.
Yeah. I would love to hear the story because this is fun.
Okay. He was with Aaron McKee. Aaron McKee just got traded to the Lakers. And I'm sure they're saying, who's this short-ass white boy going to teach me something about basketball? I'm sure that's in their mind. And one of the things I told Aaron, and I've been a huge Laker fan all my life. Yeah. And Kobe and Shaq were fussing with one another. And Kobe was young. I said there, do me a favor. When you get to LA, slap Kobe upside the head and tell him to get along with Shaq. He has to stay there. I can win more championships that way. Yeah. In any event, in those days, people were dominant with their right hands if they were righties. They didn't dribble with their left hand. You didn't see that start happening until Kyrie Irving came along and maybe Steph. But I showed them initially, they each bought a basketball. I showed them how to dribble with two balls together and then moving forward. I used to be able to juggle three, but then I showed them it's easy to dribble 3 and 4 basketballs at a time if you have someone working with you, because all you do is forward, back, or
Yep.
this way with 3. So don't limit yourself in what you do. Now, Jameer, I had noticed, and I couldn't understand it, when he was at St. Joe's, he shot 80% from the line.
Yes.
In his rookie year in the NBA, he shot 68%.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't make sense to me, because it's much harder to shoot in hostile college gyms than it is in the NBA, where in 82 games, no one gives a shit. Pardon my French. And I couldn't understand that. So I knew that some of it was mental. And the other thing we worked on with him, I noticed he didn't use his legs in his shot as much. And I noticed he had his elbow out a little bit. So he taught it to bring that in. And by the end of that year, he was back up to 80 from the line. And before the last couple of games in the season, he was like 8th in the NBA in three-point shooting, where he was nowhere near that in the early days. And so he tried to win. He was like 3rd with like maybe 3 or 4 games to go or something. So his teammates wanted him. So he was taking uncharacteristic shots. So he wound up being 7th or 8th because he was trying to get the crown.
Yeah.
And when I worked with him off the court, he was like, "Are you going to try to hypnotize me?" I said, "Let me explain what it is. It's a heightened state of relaxation. And just before you fall asleep, you're not looking to my eyes or follow the watch. I can hypnotize you, give me your jewelry and your car and your cash. If you don't like it, open your eyes." And so he bought in. And Trevor was his teammate.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor had me fly down to Orlando. And when I was working with him, he was catching the ball in triple threat position, before he brought it up. Now, in the NBA, someone's going to tie you up for a jump ball or slap the ball out. And by the time you get up to here, it's problematic. So I told him to receive the ball here. And I told Jameer, look from here. Now, he wasn't allowed to shoot threes in Orlando. His high school coach had coached at the same Our Lady of the Valley in Orange that Richie Adubato did. And you look at his stats, there's no shots from the three-point lane. So I said, I'll make you, since guys didn't dribble dominant right hand, I'll teach you to be a defensive stopper. Yeah. So I had him force everybody left. I had him keep his hands up here rather than down here, because you're never going to be beat with a bounce pass. Okay. Yep. And you're in someone's eyes or shots. So he became a defensive stopper. When he got traded to my Lakers, it was wonderful to see him shoot threes and win a championship for LA. Okay. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But when we were working with him for the mental piece, I said to him, let's say it's the last game of the NBA Finals. You're down 1 point. You've been fouled. You got put to the line for 2 foul shots. What happens if you miss both? He said, oh, man, I feel terrible. I'd be letting down my team. I'd feel awful. I said, let's look at it. I said, you're 1 year out of UCLA. You signed a 3-year, $9 million contract. If you're not a moron, you don't have to work for the rest of your life. Okay? You're dating this beautiful woman. You live in this mansion. You're doing what you love. People are applauding you. Okay? Now, he wound up playing 12 years and making, I think, $125 million back then, and Jameer made about 75. He's now a GM at the Sixers. And I said, yeah, it sucks. But is your women going to leave you? Are your siblings and your parents going to stop liking you? Are your friends going to disown you? No. You're not a brain surgeon who, if you missed by 1/4 of an inch, someone's paralyzed. Yeah, it sucked. It sucks. But it's not the end of the world. Yeah. And that took a lot of the pressure away from him. And he became a good foul shooter. And he became a 3-point shooter, which he hadn't been allowed to be. Yeah. But and again, some of it's technique. I just worked this Nike camp, and the guy I was telling you about who played in that basketball tournament, right? Yep. Who was supposed to work with me and go to Germany. He was doing the same thing. And 3 other instructors there, they were knocking him down. But you can't do that at the level that you were playing at. Yep.
And it's funny when just even describing that, because everyone I talk to, every player knows that. Once you get to a certain level, like triple threat is good for middle school, high school-ish. You can get away with it. Once you get into college, that shot has to be, you can't just keep it there because it's too slow to get either dribble. We say dribble, pass, shoot. But you have to, it's too slow in that position. So I feel like that's where you can get those guys.
No, it's pass, shoot, dribble.
Oh, sorry. My fault.
Do I have a teammate closer to the hoop than me? Give up the rock.
I was selfish, so I'm shooting first.
But you were
Shoot
the big
first.
man. You were,
Yeah.
no, you had the better
I was gonna say,
situation.
when someone's passing me the ball, they expect me to do something with it because I'm a big guy. If you're passing me the ball
Absolutely.
for free, it was like they would be like swinging, and every once in a while I just look at the basket and they're like no swing and bombs. I was just like, because I'm like, hey, listen, I got to keep them honest out here. If someone is not guarding me out here, I need to be able to hit that shot. So I totally agree, and it's fascinating because I've heard the Jameer Nelson hypnotism story. That's a big legend in the NBA about how you came in and worked with him and hypnotized and allowed his free throws, which were dipping, to go back up. And that's like a big story. I've heard that. It's a really fun story. So it's fun hearing the behind the scenes of you discussing and even getting him to get on board with that, which has to be difficult because I think the toughest part, and I talk to mental performance people who are working with pro athletes, I think the hardest part is for athletes to accept something in their 20s. It's like you think you know everything. Everything you've done, you've gotten there, and you've shown that you've gotten there by what you've known before. So when someone tries to introduce something new into your ecosystem that is already completely on this trajectory, it becomes hard. Even the stuff we're doing with Overseas X, hey guys, redefine, rethink about how you are as an overseas athlete. You're not just on the court, but what is happening. So we're trying to teach these, but when your whole entire mindset, and I had the same problem, was win, succeed, succeed, it becomes difficult to accept something new into your world when you are so used to a certain thing and that certain thing has been so successful in the past. So I think that's where the hard thing is, introducing that to a new athlete. So that's really difficult to do, but showing that Jameer and Trevor were both like, hey, you're talking about two athletes that everyone, if you watch the NBA, you know who Jameer Nelson and Trevor Ariza are. They are two of the tops. So working with them and showing that they were able to redefine how they approach the game through the mental approach is really big. And that shows, obviously, that gives a lot of credit to you as well, because you have a wealth of knowledge and these players were able to trust you. And I think that's the big thing, is trusting that this will help you, that this will get you better, and investing in yourself as an athlete to say, I don't really care how much this costs. If it's going to help me become more successful, why are you not doing it now? And I think that's the tough of trying to teach athletes that are in their 20s to keep trying to be successful, because the first part of their game was done. They got to the pro basketball. They made it. But it's not just about your first win. It's about what are you going to do after that. So the first win's definitely the toughest, but all the other ones need to keep coming. And I think that's where it's guys get that first win and they're like, all right, I'm cool. I don't need any help. I'm good. And that's, well, wrong attitude. You need more help because you need to keep getting wins, keep stacking wins. So I think it's what you're doing is amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to say was, when I was young, you couldn't tell me squat. I thought I knew all the answers. I didn't know most of the questions. Okay, because you're young and dumb. You didn't want to hear from your parents, or they're old. So what the hell do they know? But in a society years ago was very different. The matriarchs and patriarchs of family were very respected. They were the wise old men or women who shared stories and history. That's gotten by the wayside these days, unfortunately. And if someone sees me coming in white hair versus someone who's just been on the court, they're like, I don't know. He might not know stuff. But I'm hoping that the venue that you're working at, and I was surprised that even though those stories circulated, not more people reached out. Now, again, I work a little differently than most people. I'm a little outside of the box, okay, in the way I approach a lot of different things, which is okay, because that's me, and I'm not going to shift that. But with my clients in hypnosis, they have to trust me. You know, if someone's coming to stop smoking with me, yeah, they'll invest a few $100, but if they're spending $5,000 a year on cigarettes, that's going to kill them. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or whatever it happens to be. They knew to lose a bunch of pounds or any kind of behavioral change. You have to build that trust. And every day I tell my clients, I'll do the best that I can, but I need you to do your best as well. So if I make you a recording, which I did for Jameer and Trevor, geared to their own personal needs while under hypnosis, if they don't listen to it, if they don't say those phrases, I'm a great foul shooter, I'm an excellent defender, whatever it happens to be, they're not going to succeed. And I also work in every aspect of the game. Although I'm a shooting coach and mental thing, you know, I was a defensive guy. I would want to shut the other team down. When my Quinnipiac team was fourth in the country in defense, they picked us for fourth in the conference. We were fourth in the country overall. And the interesting thing was, real quick, I was hired at a junior college. The two people who were assistants for the previous coach, and they had interviewed also, and they weren't picked. So they were backstabbing me a little bit. But in any event, once they saw I knew my shit, they were okay. And at the first game, you get together, you say defense, right? Break the huddle. And the five starters get on the court, and I hear, I was like, what are they saying? I love you. I love you. These kids were so together that my leading scorer averaged 12.5 a game. My fifth leading scorer averaged about 10.5 a game. Different people would score. And my shooting guard averaged 4 points a game. You're like, why was your shooting guard? Because she guarded player 1 through 5, who's the best on the other team defensively. And they had those 3 for 12 days and were fouled out or whatever. And we used every defense under the sun. We'd pull out all kinds of different stuff. Because I've watched all the great coaches. In my life, I've been around great coaches.
And that's a huge thing. I think we always say you're a product of your environment, and how many people are part of that tree that either they always talk about the coach's tree, and you get like the Mike Holmgren tree of what happened with Green Bay and all the coaches that came from Holmgren and Andy Reid and John Gruden and all these guys separated. But now you talk about yes, that was his tree, but what was Andy Reid's tree? It was Mike Holmgren. Who else was influencing his decisions and his coaching ability? And those things are something that we don't really talk about. We talk about the tree of a great coach who sets it out to all those other. But what were the other vines that coach was receiving from? Because it's great that you are all part of one organization, but most coaches have gone through the gauntlet, had a lot of different great people. So I always love to see how those coaching circuits work and how great minds, great coaches get their coaching expertise. And like you said, a lot of it is from all these different great coaches that you've experienced who've all given you a little something and created this whole entire thing. Barry, I know we're wrapping up right now. What services are you offering to players now? And obviously they can find you on our site, but what services are you offering and what can they come and see you about? If an athlete needs help, what can they come see you about?
About every aspect of the game. I work with individuals, I work with 2 or 3 people, let's say at the high school ages or grade school ages. I can help AU teams. After doing these Nike camps, there's some coaches who want me to come in and do stuff at a higher level, at the college level, come in for a few days. A couple guys want me to come out to Indiana and also into Minnesota, who found me now on LinkedIn. I want to give back. I was around all kinds of great coaches. We didn't get a chance to talk about the Valvanos, the UB Browns, and can I tell you a quick one, or are we going to be too run over?
Yeah.
So I left Quinnipiac to come back to Jersey, even though I was that, and we were just starting a team, and the Knicks practiced there. So UB was the coach for the Knicks at the time. I would come to the gym, and I would lean over to watch practice. He would give me this dirty look. He was the son of a longshoreman, and I'd hide behind the bleach, a big railing, because it was down in the gym. And he winds up, after 9 games, getting fired because he couldn't get along with Patrick Ewing. Now, that was when Bernard King was rehabbing. And when I'd come to do my practice, Bernard would say, hey, coach, can you work me out? I was like, sure. I just feed him the ball, and he would do his thing. And then Bob Hill took over, who wound up at Knicks coach in San Antonio. And he had me guard Bill Cartwright with a broom. So Cartwright could shoot arcs over it. Fast forward a few years later, they're having a coaching clinic, and I figured, let me go anyway. It's at St. Benedict's. Danny Hurley's coaching there.
Okay.
Right? And Mike Fratello comes in. He has 50 out-of-bounds plays. It's like insane. And I know that Yubi's going to be winding up speaking. So I wait outside about 15 minutes before he comes. I said, Coach Brown, can I talk to you for a second? He said, what do you want? He goes, so I tell him the story. I said, I came back to Uppsala College where I met my ex-wife. If I hadn't come back because of you to Uppsala College, my kid wouldn't be on the planet. He said, wow, that's great. So UB rounds because my daughter's here because of coming back to Jersey from Connecticut and putting a program together.
It's great. It's, again, all those little, I always think about relationships, things like that come and go, but what created something that lasts. Like my daughter, same thing. Like we all have those stories of, and basketball really related to most of them. I think basketball's created most of the good things that have happened in my life. I try to tell my daughter that all the time because she's young and she's in that 12-year-old range where she really likes it. She's enjoying it, but she's not like those kids who are just like in the gym 24 hours a day. It's like she's also a kid. Like she has a social life. She goes out with her friends. Like she's very balanced. And that's why I'm trying to keep her, because I think it's when you put too much pressure at a young age. But it's funny thinking about that and thinking about how basketball has influenced how my daughter goes through her life just from my experience with basketball. And now it's like the pressure that she has. I always try to, if I feel bad, I'm like, it's a lot of pressure on you. You'll be fine. And it's just it's fun how the basketball has brought so many things together, and how these coaches and these athletes and these players that I've interacted with and you've interacted with, it's all been through this amazing game. So it's been really fun talking to you today. And last question, if every athlete knew just one thing about the mental side of the game, what should it be? What would you say would be the best thing that any athlete needs to know about the mental side of the game?
I think, again, like I said before, treating each moment as that moment. If you're struggling offensively, play some defense. The next play, the next game. There's games where, like you were saying, you're knocking them down, you're in that zone. Everybody's had that. There's other games where you can hit the ocean if you were standing at the beach. But if you give it your all, which is all I ever ask my players, just give me everything you got. Yeah. Some days you're going to suck. There's some days you're going to be great, just like in life.
Yeah.
But if you try to be the best version of yourself, that's what you should strive for. And it's one of the things that you gain, which these overseas guys now, there's only 450 guys at 8 billion in the NBA. Yeah. Maybe another 450 in the G League. But you wound up going to places you never would have expected, learning different cultures, working with different people, learning interesting things. The kid who was in that TBT thing went to Germany and didn't realize they didn't have dryers for his clothes. He went to the restaurant, it was all in German. He didn't know German. Yeah. There's huge transitions which I can help with the players that you're working with, as we've had conversations previously.
Yes.
And being homesick and maybe not getting the ball and being the only American perhaps on a team. There's a whole slew of different things, that adjustment that players and kids have to make. Please feel free. It's foulshotdoc.com. They can call me, 908-303-7767. I might answer Hypnosis Counseling Center. I might answer Foul Shot Doc. I don't know.
Rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to work with you guys. I think you're doing a fabulous thing, Kevin. And I want to be involved as much as I can as you think it's necessary, required, or whatever.
No, I love that. And I love what we're building. I love that you're part of this. And everyone, if you heard, and I know I heard this multiple times. And it's funny, when I did my research, I was like, wait, that was Barry. Like, I heard all these things about Jameer Nelson and a hypnosis and like how his foul shots improved. And it's a fun little story that kind of circulates through the NBA. And it's like underground and no one really knows. And I like that I was able to bring you to the forefront and be like, nope, this is who did it. And now we have this whole community of athletes who can utilize your services. So Barry Wolfson, all you have to do, go to members, connect with Barry, send him a message. If you need his help, please reach out to him because he's incredible. We really appreciate you being part of this platform, but also sharing an hour, about 45 minutes of your day today.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. All right, this has been Barry Wolfson. Thank you so much. The Foul Shot Doc, hit him up on the community. We'll see you guys next time for another webinar. We have Sean McCall coming up. We have Joanne Harris coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun in August. And then David Lesfarence will join us again late August and early September to tell us a little bit more about dual citizenship. We'll see you guys next time on the OverseasX webinar series.
You still there?